everyone, it's a foreigner abroad here, and I hate it when I hear people getting scammed overseas. We take our hard-earned money and we go to different countries so we can be more open-minded, so we can experience new cultures, but then we have to deal with these who are trying to steal from us. So help me educate people by sharing the knowledge that I'm about to give you. Share this video, share the contents of this video with anyone who you know who's about to travel or who wants to travel, so they know how to fight back against these scams. Let's get these scammers to try just a little bit harder to steal our money from us, but in the end, let's educate each other so we know how to avoid them, so we completely just waste their time. All right, so scam number one. Now you're at Indira Gandhi International Airport, you just landed, you got your luggage, and you just exited the airport and you're about to find your way, or you're about to figure out your way from the airport to your hotel. Well, you just made your first mistake, because you should not be thinking about how to get to your hotel or your hostel for the first time after you walk out the exit doors of that airport. You should be well prepared. You should know exactly how to get to your spot from the airport before you even land, because if you don't, then they're going to get you. The minute you get outside of the international airport's doors, you're going to be touted non-stop by cab drivers. Now, a lot of these cab drivers are going to try to rip you off. So I'm going to give you a few options, which in my opinion are the best options. If you disagree, you can comment below and you can share your experience and your story, and let me and others know what other options you think are better. But here are the options that I think are the best to get you from the airport to your hotel. Okay, number one, the cool thing right now is that Uber is working in India, so that's awesome. So you can actually use the same app that you use back home, whichever country you're in, to call Uber, and you can get your ride to the airport. Ola is the competitor to Uber in India. However, if you're going to use this service, you need to have an Indian phone number. So chances are you don't have it. So I would say don't even bother with it. But if you are going to be staying in India for a while and you do get a SIM card and you do start traveling often within the country, then Ola can actually be a good money saver for you. Okay, so first option, that's getting a rideshare service like Uber from the airport. Okay, let's say you don't want to do that. Your second option is going to the prepaid taxi booth. Now, this is before you exit the airport. You'll find this. Now, what this is, it's fares that are regulated by the Indian government, so cab drivers don't cheat you. These fares are going to be higher than Uber, so keep that in mind. But something very important comes to mind now. This is very, very important. When you go to one of these prepaid taxi booths that's inside the airport, right? You're gonna let your guard down because you're thinking, okay, I'm getting a fair fare, right? However, they are known to short-change you. What they do is, you'll give them, for example, a 500 rupee bill, and they'll ask you a question to distract you real quick to make you look away from the money that you just put on the counter. They may ask you about your luggage, or they may point to a fare, and before you know it, that 500 rupee bill or whatever you put down there has been swapped with a different denomination, a lower denomination, and they're going to say, hey, I told you it's this much, you gave me this much. So what just happened is they're short-change artists. They're really good at this. However, they're known to do this. If you are confident that that just happened to you, you can argue with them. You can ask for a manager or supervisor. Those people know that their employees run these scams all day long. I've heard of a lot of stories where they'll call for a supervisor or a manager, or even before they can even get the manager, the person will say, oh, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake, and they'll refund you back your money. But of course, the best way to deal with this is to not even put yourself in that situation. So do not move your eyes from your own money in any kind of transaction, starting from when you arrive at the airport. Keep your eyes glued to that money and make sure you get your change back. Or if they're asking you questions and they need answers to give you change back, keep that money in your hand. Another thing, familiarize yourself with the local currency, and do that before you get there. Don't exchange money at the airport. You're gonna get ripped off. Most banks will sell you foreign currency before you travel abroad. I know it's not the best option. You can also go to a foreign exchange place locally where you live, but don't start exchanging money in the airport. You're just asking to get ripped off when you do that. All right, so first option, remember, is a rideshare service like Uber, which would be Uber or Ola if you have an Indian phone number. The second is going to be a prepaid cab, and you're going to pay for that at the official prepaid taxi booth. Watch out for the short change scam artists, and these are the people that work there, so watch out for that. So once you purchase that prepaid taxi service from that booth, you get 2 vouchers. One voucher is for you, the second voucher is for the driver. Do not give that voucher to the driver until your trip is complete. I'm about to get into the details of what drivers do to scam you, but I first want to go over your options on how to get to your destination. Okay, first, rideshare option. Second, prepaid taxi. Third option is to get a radio taxi. Some of these are Meru Cab. Mega Cab is another one. They also have apps now. You can find these cabs outside of the airport. The only difference between these ones and the prepaid one is obviously they're not prepaid and these are metered cabs. Now, if you're not familiar with taxi meters in India, I would suggest not to use one of these simply because you're not going to be able to spot a meter that's going too fast. Or maybe you will, but it's not worth getting to that hassle and that argument with someone if you've never taken a cab with a meter in India before. So let this be your third option. I'm going from lowest price, which will probably be your Uber and your Ola, to your prepaid, which is a bit higher, and you get that at the booth inside the airport, right? And your third option, now you're looking at a metered cab, radio taxi, Meru Cab or Mega Cab. These are 2 companies that do it. WTI is another company that does it. Now, your most expensive option is going to be getting a transfer from your hotel. There's nothing bad about this one. I actually like doing this one because it's a lot safer. There's a lot less hassle, especially in a country you're not familiar with. Just keep in mind it's more expensive. Why? Because they know you're a tourist. They're going to charge you a premium for the service. And also, they're going to have to bill you for sending someone and bringing you back. So you're actually paying for a round trip if you think about it. The last option, I'm not going to talk too much about this, is public transportation. I highly discourage you from using this one simply because pickpockets, people who will snatch your stuff, they're just well known around India. So unless you're really feeling adventurous or unless you don't have much luggage on you, I would say don't even mess with this one, but that's completely up to you. I know some people who will swear by this mode of transportation and they'll take a metro. But if you do that, more power to you. Watch out for the jostling and all the people knocking into you and cramming you and shoving you, because that's when they steal from you. All right, let's recap our 4 options before I go into the details of what taxi drivers will try to scam you with once they pick you up. Okay, your first option, rideshare service, Ola, Uber, perfect. Number 2, prepaid taxi, and get this from the official booth, not from a private company booth that's meant to look like one. Those are outside of the airport. Number 3, metered cabs. You can find these once you exit the airport. Number 4 is your hotel arranging for a pickup for you. Okay, so I have not mentioned any rickshaws so far. These tuk-tuks, the authentic way of travel in India, and there's a reason for that. These guys are extremely street smart, so that's why I don't put them in my top 4 options in how to get from the airport to my destination. Now, you may feel more adventurous than me, and you may want to do it. You may want the authentic experience, and if you do, more power to you. So let me explain to you some of the scams that these guys run. And yes, you can catch one of these outside the airport as well. You may have to walk a little bit further, but you can get them. Now, at the same time, I want to knock out some of the scams that cab drivers, metered cab drivers run. So I'm going to try to do these together. Okay, so let's say you got your metered cab. The first thing you need to make sure is that that meter is working. Sometimes they will say, oh, my meter's not working, and now you're at their mercy. If the meter's not working, don't even sit in that cab. Number 2, if there is somebody in the passenger seat of that cab and they're telling you to get in, don't go. What's the point of that? There's already someone in there and they want you to take a cab with them? No, that's an absolute no. Okay, so you're not getting inside a metered cab if that meter's not working. Now, as I mentioned before, if you've never taken a metered cab in India, you may not be able to spot a rigged meter. They do rig these, so I would suggest getting familiar with these taxi meters first before you start taking them for long routes, especially when you have luggage where you're a little bit more vulnerable, okay? But let's say you do understand the meters, and let's say the meter's working and you get inside that metered cab, okay, you're off to a good start. Now let's go to the rickshaws real quick. You are not gonna step foot inside a rickshaw unless you negotiate price with them. If you just sit in that rickshaw and then start talking price, you're at a severe disadvantage. Another thing, rickshaw drivers as well as cab drivers are notorious to tell you that your hotel has moved, it no longer exists, there's a roadblock, I can't get there, etc., etc. All of this is the same scam. What they're going to do is they're going to take you to a place called a tourism center, which is a travel agent with inflated prices, and the driver gets a commission. So if they try to take you anywhere other than your destination, you have to refuse that. Okay, so let's talk about your destination real quick. Don't go with 600 this and that and street names and all that. Find a landmark that your hotel is very close to and give them the landmark as the place you're going to. That way they cannot lose the landmark, right? So keep that in mind. Tourism offices are usually fake and there's no reason for you to go to one. So use a landmark as your destination. If they still take you to one of these places, or if they still try, tell them I want to go to the police station and see how that works out for them. Now, how do you find this landmark? Your research has to begin before you even set foot on your flight to go to India. You need to know where your hotel is. You need to look at reviews and find a decent hotel. You need to know how to get to that hotel, and you need to know what's next to it. So find a landmark that's next to that hotel and use that as your destination while telling a rickshaw driver or a metered cab driver. With the rickshaw, definitely talk price first. Do research and find out how much that trip should cost before you get to India. You can find it online. Is it 300 rupees? Is it 200 rupees? If they tell you 3,000 rupees, then you'll know that's outrageous. Another thing is, make sure you understand the conversion rate between your currency and Indian rupees. Sometimes it's not worth haggling over $1, which may be a lot more to them in India than it is to you. So keep that in mind. Don't fight for absolutely nothing, but also make sure that you do know when you're getting ripped off, so you're well aware of this. Another thing about the currency, make sure you know what that currency looks like before you get to India. Don't get fake currency, and don't fall victim to these short change, these short change artists, whatever you want to call them, scams. Familiarize yourself with the color of the bills and what they look like. Don't let someone swap money on you. All right, so backtrack a little bit. The key here really is to act like you're confident and to believe that you're confident and know where you're trying to go. Don't act like a lost tourist, even though you may feel like one. These people are like sharks. They can smell blood and they'll smell fear on you. So act confident, act like you know where you're about to go. And the way you do this is, before getting to these transportation services, you tell them where you're about to go. You tell them the landmark and you say, I'm going here, do you know where it is? And you ask them how much. Okay, you should already know how much it costs with your own research before you even set foot on that plane. You should know how much it costs to get to your hotel or that landmark. You should already know that, because if the guy comes and says 3,000 rupees when it should be 300, you can just say, you know what? No way, I'm just going to walk away. And you walk away and then watch that price come down. But agree on a price before you get inside a rickshaw for sure. On a metered cab, make sure he knows where he's taking you. Don't let him say, oh, that place just got lost and it's just no longer in existence anymore. All right, so I think I've covered your hotel has disappeared scam. I've also covered the fake tourism office scam. Something about these, there are a lot of tourism offices. They look official, but they're not. They're travel agents. You'll run into them and they're just going to sell you inflated, highly priced services. You don't need them. Your booking should have been done before you even set foot on that plane. Unless you're really adventurous, like some people that I see on YouTube, they walk around and try to barter and haggle for hotel rooms. Unless you really want to do that, I would suggest doing all your stuff online before. Yes, maybe you could save some money if you were walking on the streets and trying to find a place, but I don't have that experience. I personally wouldn't do that. Another one that's really irritating is, oh, I do not have change. I don't know if this is that much of a scam or if it's a trick. It's just really annoying. What they'll do is, you'll pay, let's say, the rickshaw driver or the cab driver for something, for the service, for the ride, and instead of giving you your exact change, they'll give you a little bit more money back and say, I don't have change. So at that point, the only viable option for you is to turn around and give that money back to him and say, keep the change, because you don't have change and I don't have it either. So the way to avoid this is to have smaller denominations of that currency on you as well. So let's recap some of this, because I know this is a lot of information. I talked about my first 4 preferences and how to get to your destination from the airport. 1 being a rideshare service like Uber. 2 being the prepaid cab. 3 being the metered one. Now, I wouldn't even go to this. I would just do the first two, but if you have to go down the list, 3 is the metered cab, and 4 is the pickup from your hotel. Now, I've used 4 a lot of times, especially if I'm not familiar with that place. I put it at number 4 just because it's the highest priced option. But keep in mind, if you take a metered cab, or if you decide to take a rickshaw, which is not in my options, you may actually end up paying more than this option if you do not know what you're doing. If you do not know how to spot a rigged meter, or if you do not know how to negotiate with a rickshaw driver who's just going to take you to a dead end and say, hey, well, your hotel has moved, here's a tourism office. All right, so let's say you're feeling adventurous and now you want to take public transportation. Okay, so let's talk about culture in India real quick. You'll notice from pictures and videos that you've seen before, or maybe from some of the people who live in your home country, they tend to be very up close and personal with you, meaning that the concept of personal space in India is very different than a lot of other countries that you may be used to. So why am I telling you this? In public transportation, or just while walking in the street in a busy area, you're gonna have people who are shoving you, rubbing up against you, jostling you, etc., etc. You're not gonna know who's trying to scam you, who's trying to cheat you. A lot of the people that do this, and this is surprising, are actually women and kids. They know how to get you to put your guard down. So how do you fight back against this? You need to have a really dorky neck wallet like I do. You have to take very little valuables on you when you're taking public transportation. I also have a really dorky underwear wallet that fits a lot of stuff in there. These things have saved me so much stress and gave me so much peace of mind that when I'm in a place where I'm being pushed and shoved, all I really have to protect is my cell phone. So keep in mind, the personal space is very different in India. You're gonna have people who are rubbing up against you in lots of odd different situations. You don't know who's doing what. And there are gangs that do this, and sadly, a lot of them are women and children. So watch out for that in public transportation. So here's another one that I don't really hear a whole lot about anymore, and I'm glad about that, because when this one hits, it's really expensive. It can hurt you quite a bit. So this one is called the fake Indian business or jewelry or gem or something on those lines scam. What it entails is someone will befriend you. They'll portray themselves to be a business person. Sometimes they may even be posing as a foreigner just like you, and they're going to tell you that they need to ship some valuable items out of the country. Now, coincidentally, these valuables will be going where you're going because this person knows where you're from. And what they're going to tell you is they're going to convince you very nicely to go with them to some post office and to ship these to a foreign country where you are going to be going, because you've already told them where you're from, because they've already befriended you. They're going to tell you that once you help them with this transaction, once you go to your country, your native country, wherever you're going, you can, yes you can. Some friendly people wanted to be in my video. Okay, and they'll tell you that they have to ship some valuables out of the country, and they're going to be jewelry or gemstones. They'll tell you that they need to ship it out, but they can't ship it out without paying these custom fees because they're an Indian citizen, but you can do it for them because you're a foreigner. And the destination of these items is usually coincidentally either where you're from or where you're going to next, because this person that you're dealing with has gotten to know you a little bit. They got out of you where you're from or where you're headed to next, and they'll say, hey, if you can just help me with this transaction, it's not going to cost you anything. I'm just going to ship it to your country. You pick it up from there and just hand it to the people who wanted it. I will give you 10,000 or 20,000 euros and you'll make a quick buck. The way this scam works is they make you put your guard down because you think that this person is shipping you all these valuables which are fake to begin with, and you think, hey, I have nothing to lose. This person's trusting me with all this stuff and I'm going to get paid for this. And you say, okay, let's go and ship these things to me. So you and this person go to a post office and you carefully hand this fake stuff to the person there and you ship it to the destination, wherever you're going to go after this, where you're supposed to pick it up from. Then the person you're dealing with, which is your friend who's trying to scam you, is going to say, okay, you may get a call from a customs agent just to verify that you are who you say you are, because these items are very valuable. They're just going to make sure that you're a foreigner so you don't have to pay these custom fees, or some excuse for a customs agent to call you and verify some info. Now what happens is, after the post office, you go home, the scammer goes home, you'll get a call the next day or in a few days, and it's going to be a very angry sounding custom official, and sometimes they'll say that they're a police officer, so this changes sometimes in the scam, and they're going to tell you that you're about to go to jail because you just stole all these items and sent them to a foreign country. And the only way you can avoid going to jail is if you can show proof of purchase for these items. So this is how this scam works. So now you call your buddy who just scammed you into getting into this transaction, and they're going to act extremely worried about you and say, oh my God, you're about to go to jail. How can we fix this? The only way to fix it is we need to create a receipt that shows you paid for those items. So now you need to hand out your credit card number so they can give you a real receipt, and they can charge you $5,000, $10,000, however much these items are worth. They're going to make you do a transaction and tell you that you need this or you're going to go to jail. But then they'll promise you and say, look, once you get to your destination, pick up the stuff and hand it over, I will give you back all your money, I promise. And of course, that never happens. You go back home or wherever you're headed to, you pick up the stuff, or even if you don't even try to pick it up, that person will never ever answer their phone, and all of a sudden you're out a lot of money. So this is a really stupid one. You know, the point of this is, why would you even enter in any kind of business transaction in a foreign country with all this customs jargon and all this stuff that you don't know about? It's not worth even talking to someone who's talking to you about this stuff. You're on vacation, you're not out there to do business. Anyone who's telling you, I can't send stuff abroad because it's going to cost me $10,000 or $20,000 in custom fees, but you can do it, I mean, that should raise red flags, right? So keep in mind, you're on vacation, you're not there to do business transactions. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. So here's another one that sadly involves women and children. This one is where a mom and a child will approach you and they will ask you to help them purchase some basic necessity items such as rice or milk or school supplies. They'll conveniently take you to a store that's conveniently located very close to where they approached you, and they'll point at the items they want you to purchase. It's usually the higher priced items. What will happen is you'll purchase it for them, and afterwards they'll either sell it or they'll return it. These groups operate in gangs, so it's not just a few people that are doing it. They're large gangs that do this on a daily basis, so keep an eye out for this scam. Another one that I didn't mention is the reduced fare, right, with a rickshaw or a cab. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, I'll take you to where we want to go, but before we go there, I will offer you a discounted fare if we go to this bazaar. There's great shopping, only for today I have the best prices, and what it is, it's a bazaar, a real bazaar, but it's full of high pressure sales tactics and inflated prices that are meant for tourists like you, and you're going to feel so much pressure to buy something that you may just give in just to get out of there and get to your final destination. So if a cab driver tells you, I'm going to take you shopping to a bazaar or someplace that you did not ask to go to, simply refuse. They know how to deal with tourists like you. They know how to raise prices on you. They know how to rip you off, and they know how to implement so much pressure to where you just say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to buy something just so you can let me go.